Welcome back, everybody. It is February 3rd of 2020, and this is episode 14 of What Is on My Desk. So here we are, guys, February of 2020. I do have a little bit of a longer video ahead of for you on this one. There's quite a bit to go over. The four kits I was building before, the MiG-21, the F4F Wildcat, the Sea Hurricane, and the Vampire, they are done. They are finished. You will see the wrap-up video where I go over the finished product in a little bit here, and then I introduce the next four kits that I've started, as well as a little bit of progress I have on those kits. And after that, we got quite a bit of product review to go over. There's a number of items that you'll see that I have received in the last month. So it's going to be a bit of a long video, so I do apologize. I do have a couple of links I'm going to have posted on the screen, as well as some stuff down in the comment section if you want to go take a look at everything. Included down in the description, I should say, of this video, I will have links to the completed albums of all of those first four kits on my website. I am working diligently, I promise you, on those build logs. I do plan to get them done sooner than I did last time around. I think it took me almost 5 months last time. I do apologize. Learned my lessons on making those build log videos, how to keep track of what is for what aircraft and make things a little bit easier on myself to limit that production time. So I'm working on it. I'm maybe halfway through the Vampire one now. So I'll get those done. I'll get those posted for those of you who love watching those time-lapse build logs. So that's that. It's time to we'll get the camera swung over. We'll get these videos done. Get this stuff posted in advance. Thank you for watching this. And as always, my name is Sean. And this is Sean's Aviation. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to go over the four kits that I finished, the MiG-21, the F4F, the Hurricane, and the Vampire. Get those finished, get them on the shelf, and start the next batch. So I'll start in the same order I just described them, excuse me, with the MiG-21. So here is the finished product. So it turned out very well, considering the quality of the kit. I did use the Vallejo Model Air Silver. Or the aluminum, I should say. I did not use a metallizer paint. I just used a standard aluminum. The MiG-21 initially would have been painted in an aluminum lacquer, which is basically like aluminum powder suspended in a clear lacquer base. So the aircraft wouldn't have looked like it would have been a natural metal. So I painted it up in a similar standard. So it is not Alclad metallizer. It is a standard aluminum paint. But it turned out quite well. There is a little tiny bit of weathering on it. You might be able to see a little bit on the wings, just to give it a little bit of a dirty look. But overall, it's relatively clean. Decals went on nice and easy. It's a mix of the stencils being the Academy decals, and then the rest of them were the Polish company aftermarket that I bought. Very basic. The Polish did not have colorful schemes, really. There's just the roundel on the tail and the bottom of the wings, and then the aircraft number here on the nose, which I don't know if it's a real number or not. I'm building my wife is Polish, so I've been building a couple of Polish aircraft up. That way I get some of the Soviet aircraft, but it's still Polish, so it it fits. Anyways, so the number is the number she wanted. I asked her what 4-digit number she wanted, and based off the numbers I had available, that is what she chose. So whether it has any special meaning, I will never know, but that is what she wanted. That is what I built. As I said, very happy with how it turned out. I did do the nose ring and the exhaust at the back. I did make that Alclad. I painted it with the Alclad stainless steel, and then it got weathered and it got flat coated. So it did lose a little bit of its metallic look, but it does look like a nice sort of metallic-y gray color, which you would normally see on a variation in the panels. So yeah, very happy with that. It looked good. I got the air brakes are in the extended position. So it does look a little dynamic when it's mounted on the base, and it's mounted with a little bit of, you can see here, a little bit of an upward climb, so it looks interesting.
It's for hands.
Yeah, anyways, so it does look, you know, a bit of dynamic look to it. But there you go. So the MiG-21 complete. And as always, here in the comment section down below in the description for this video, I will include links to all 4 of the build logs on my website. And then there will be a full build log video coming up soon. I'll get that get that online as soon as I can, so you can watch the process of these being built on the time-lapse build. So next up is the F4F Wildcat. I am very happy with how this turned out. The weathering came out pretty much perfect from what I expected. It's got a bit of the black wash to kind of dirty up the panel lines, and then I did a little bit of a staining where the guns would be, just to make it look like it was used. Decals went on great. Tamiya can be hit and miss with their decals. Some of them are amazing, some of them are not. These particular ones did go down quite well, so I have no complaints on that. So you can see the bottom turned the wings, also same idea. Dirtied it up a little bit. It didn't come out quite as well as I liked. I did some exhaust staining on the lower fuselage, and it kind of disappeared. You can see a little bit of it there behind the main landing gear, but it disappeared, and I didn't expect it to disappear that much when I flat coated. So only real complaint I have is just the exhaust staining does not show quite as well as I expected. But there you go, the head on view. So it turned out quite nice. As I said, very happy with this. Looks good on my shelf with the rest of the Navy aircraft. I've got what, 2 RAF, well, Fleet Air Arm, 2 British Hellcats, 3 Corsairs, and now a Wildcat. So it does have a little bit of a U.S. naval aircraft themed shelf. So it turned out really well. Very happy with that. Colors were spot on. This is one of the first times I used the Vallejo colors to paint camouflage. I mean, I guess I did a little bit with the Germans, but this is the U.S. Navy kit box set they had, came with the 2 colors, and I mean the colors are just spot on. Like, you know, anyways, very happy with that. I also, I'm gonna be able to pick it up in the camera there. I used the elastic ship rigging material for the antenna, so it turned out quite nice, running from the tail to the mast and then down to the fuselage. So it turned out quite well. Very happy with that. My F4F Wildcat. So next up we have the Sea Hurricane. Again, turned out really well. I'm not sure whether I mislabeled my paints or whether the paint I used was just wrong, but that gray is nowhere near as dark as it's supposed to be. I think I may have just mislabeled my list and I didn't pay attention to the color I grabbed. It should be a lot darker than that. That's my only complaint when I built this. I did get the color wrong. I did not notice until after I was decaling. I was looking up some stuff online to get some better ideas for where the decal should be placed, and I realized that it's not the right color gray. But I mean, what can you do? It's too late now. I'll live with it. Yeah, otherwise, again, the decals, it's an Italeri kit. So again, I was a little worried about decal quality. Decals are perfect. I mean, they went down without any issue. They blended in nicely with the wash. The setting solution did wonders. I mean, to the point, like just to show you how good a setting solution and some of these decals can be. Look at that right here. You can see there's a door built into the side of the panel, and I mean, look at the detail where you can still see the panel line and the fastener from the black wash coming through the decal. So you can easily see how those decals settled in extremely nicely. Was not expecting the decals to come out that well. The other surprising thing, the leading edge yellow and the gun ports are decals. And again, sometimes they just don't work very well, and both of these went on quite nicely, settled down quite nicely. I'm not going to complain at all. I mean, the only real issue I had, which you can't even tell, the engine inside, horrible lump of plastic. so it didn't look very good. So I had, but the exhaust stacks glue onto the engine, so I had to mount the engine inside the cowling on its frame, but it was just this twisted clump. It didn't look like an engine. It didn't sit straight. So unfortunately, when I did go to fit the exhaust stacks, they didn't fit. The lines didn't hold up, so I had to cut off the tabs and just glue them against the engine to line it up with the fuselage on the outside, not the engine on the inside. As well, the mounting point for the prop was off center, so I had to cut it off and then glue the prop directly on. It's still just slightly too far over to one side, but I mean, you need to really know what you're looking at to get to see that. So turned out well considering there was those issues. Weathering, as I said, is beautiful on this again. Showed up. You can maybe make out a little bit of the gun staining. Same thing with the Hurricane as was the F4F. You can see a little bit better here, the exhaust stains, but they faded quite badly with the flat coat. I was using Tamiya Smoke, which, I mean, that side doesn't look too bad. It just isn't quite as heavy as I expected it to be. I guess I'm just used to seeing a heavier exhaust stain, but you know, it turned out okay. I went back to my Tamiya Smoke. I haven't used that for a few builds. I've been using thin black paint for a while, but it does come. The smoke has a bit of a brownish tint to it, but yeah, it's not horrible. I used the antenna elastic on this one as well, but I'm very happy. As I said, this is the first 1/48 Hurricane I've built since I was probably in grade 9 or 10. So we're talking, oh God, that's what, 2000? So 20 years since I built a 1/48 Hurricane. So it was nice to have one built and put it up on the shelf. Can't complain. Good kit, good build. Went together pretty solid. I mean, if I was sitting down and building this, you can probably pop one of these out in, you know, a couple of days, really, if I had the effort and the time so there you go, Hawker Hurricane. And last but not least, the Vampire. Considering what I started with a classic airframes, Vampire, I think this is the one I'm most impressed with. It turned out much better than I ever expected it would. There's a lot of work in this kit. It's a little hard to tell when it's all finished up, but the amount of putty and sanding, if you watch or check the website, my website, see some of the pictures, and when I get the build log done, if you're interested in seeing how this goes together, keep an eye out for that time-lapse build log and take a look, because it is a brutal kit. It took a lot of effort to make it look the way it does. So same as the MiG-21, it's painted with the Model Air aluminum. Again, not very many people know this. The center fuselage pod of the Vampire is wood. It's the same type of construction as the Mosquito. So this would have been painted in a silver lacquer. So in most cases, the entire airframe was just painted silver lacquer. Also protected it from corrosion. So I painted it with the Vallejo silver, and then I gave it a black wash and a flat coat. As again, this particular one has the bat on the nose. So you can see the bat face on the nose. So the red is painted on. I used a mask. Like I cut my own custom mask again. Check my picture, check the build time lapse when it's completed. You'll see the process. Mask off the red, painted all the red on top of the aluminum, gloss coated, decaled, and then put it all together. So that is the Vampire. Again, all things considered. Funny little tidbit. I don't know if it caught it in the build log. As I was doing, I believe, the black wash, I knocked one of these little the counterbalances on the elevator. I knocked one off. For the life of me, I could not find it. I looked, actually I was gluing it back on, and I could not find it. I ended up using a pair of tweezers to put it on. I could not find the piece. I looked. I searched the desk, I searched the floor, I did everything I could to find it, gave up, put the model aside, figured, you know what, I'll live with it, whatever, I'm missing a balance, no one's going to notice but me, move on. Like 3 days later, I come down, and I had worked on the model a few times after, and it was literally stuck to the boom somewhere back here. I don't know how it ended up getting stuck to that, or how I missed it, but it was there. It was divine intervention, if you want to call it. So yeah, all in all, very happy with the way this went together. You know, these are very difficult models to build, and the fact that it turned out, you know, as nice and clean as this one looks, there are many little issues, but only I really know about them, so I'm not going to complain. Again, minimal weathering, just a bit of black wash just to dirty it up, you know, usual wear and tear that you would get on an aircraft in service, but overall nothing too crazy. And there you go. Vampire. So those were the 4 kits I already built. They're done. That took me roughly 7 months from when I started to when I finished them. It is, what, 27th of January, so almost 7 months from start to finish on those 4 kits. So my build windows are getting longer and longer and longer as I have less and less free time in my life. It's also good because I don't have a lot of free space on the shelf, so building fewer kits means I don't fill up what valuable space I have quite as fast. So one of the other things that makes that easier, as a great segue to not having a lot of shelf space to put up my built models, is building models for other people. I've done that for a bit. I mean, I will gladly build for anybody. So if there is anybody out there who's interested in having a custom model built for them in certain markings, by all means contact me. The downside is shipping a built model is very difficult, so I prefer, if this does go out there and there are people interested, to try to keep it relatively close to the Ottawa area, just to make sure that, you know, I can actually get it to people without it breaking. So I try to stay local. I've built a bunch of people at work, co-workers. I've been working at an airport. Many of my coworkers are interested in aircraft, and they usually have that favorite plane. So I was able to build them for them in whatever markings they want. So there's some pretty cool stuff I've done. So this particular kit will be built for somebody else. It's for a coworker. So this is Hasegawa's 1/72nd F-18. It is an old, I'm not going to say it again. Well, I will. Old kit. I don't have the exact, let's see, you can just see how yellow the instructions are. I mean, it's been sitting around for a while. I'm trying to see if there is a copyright anywhere on the instructions. I don't see anything. 1985. The instructions were printed in 1985, so that gives you an idea of how long this kit has been around. The decals are absolute shite. They have yellowed. You can see, I'm going to zoom in here, they are yellow, yellow, yellow. Now I have heard you can, for example, tape this to a window and the UV light will clear up that yellow glare, but there's some other issues that fall on. First of all of these markings are for the call it mid to late 80s Canadian markings, completely different from what the aircraft today would be marked as. Which is, just a few of the little problems I have to deal with this kit. The other one, which, I don't really build 1/72nd kits. It has been a long time since I built a 1/72nd kit. So, I'm just going to have to do my best to put this together nicely and make it work. But, yeah, so, there's been a little bit of work done on it, I believe. I haven't really gone through this yet, but I do believe he mentioned that there was some minor work done on it. Now that I say that, going through, yeah, you know what? That is not a good sign, because I don't see a cockpit in this. So, T6 Texan 2. This is a short run kit produced by Ibex. I don't even know if they ever made any other kits other than this one. So we'll see how this goes together. It's got a bit of a soft detail in places. It definitely smacks of a one-off kit. not the greatest in terms of detail. Some larger panel lines. It does come with vacuum form canopy, which again, don't really like using them, but it is what it is. And then a bunch of resin parts for the seats and the exhaust stacks and the spinner and nose cone and a lot of the complicated parts. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not expecting it to turn out the best. This will be painted up in Canadian colors, the blue, with the chrome spinner and the metal leading edges. Like, that's just another example. The leading edges aren't even delineated on the tail, so it's going to take a little bit of effort to make it work. Anyways, not much to say on that. It's going to be a bit of work. It's going to be a short run kit, and it is definitely going to require a bit of elbow grease to make this work. But again, dark blue, Canadian markings. Be a good, it would be a really good addition to my RCAF training shelf. So stay tuned for that. Okay, next kit that I'm going to be doing is a Stuka. This is Hasegawa Stuka. Again, it's a little bit of an older model. It has been somewhat started. There's some pieces laying around. I'm pretty sure it's just stuff that's broken off the screws after many years of kicking around inside the box. Surprisingly, most people don't realize this. The Stuka is a massive plane. That's, it's a 1/48 scale. That is not a small, insignificant plane. It is relatively high detailed. I mean, it is Hasegawa, so it's not a cheap kit. There's definitely some quality involved in the kit. I plan on building this on a stand. I'm going to try to put it on a stand in a dive bombing situation with the little brakes out, and I'd like to have the bomb in the big, when the bomb, it sits in a cradle, so when the bomb, I'm trying to figure this out, so I'll show you. So if the plane's in a dive, the bomb is underneath, but if it drops, it's going to fall and hit the prop. So it's built onto a gantry that swings the bomb out and then releases it. And I want to have it built with the gear, with that bomb, hopefully with the bomb in the extended position looking like it's in the process of being dropped. I also plan on doing the whitewashed aircraft. I've done whitewash before. I'll throw a picture up here of my Stork in my whitewash. So the way the Germans used to do it, they're painted in the green scheme, the two-tone green scheme. And then when they went into Arctic conditions, winter conditions, they literally just painted a water-based whitewash onto the aircraft. And then over time in flights, that whitewash would wear off and come off as it flew through, say, water or dirt, or just wear and tear of the slipstream would wear that paint off. So my plan when I do this, for example, is to paint it up in the green scheme with the yellow nose and the yellow wingtips, put all the decals on, and then go through and brush on using a water-based paint, very similar to how I weather with the black paint, but using white paint, paint it on where it belongs around all the roundels and stuff, and then use a white damp cloth and wipe a little bit off. So it's still mostly painted white, but you're seeing that wash fading and blowing off the plane, so the leading edges will be clearer, and as so it's going to be cool. It's going to be a little bit of effort, but it's looking pretty good. So I'm very excited to get this done, especially in a dynamic pose in the middle of a dive with the bomb releasing. That's my plan. Hopefully it works. Stay tuned on these monthly updates and my build log for that when it's complete. And finally, yet again, a Hasegawa. This time I'm doing the 1/48 scale P47 D30, a late model D P47. This was obviously, as you can see, a bagged kit. It did not come in a box. Whoever had purchased it off had gotten rid of the box, disposed of the box to save space. So I'm planning to build this one up out of the box using the kit decals, and I'll be doing it up as Tar Heel Hal. This is an aircraft. There's a warbird flying today that's painted in these markings. Extremely colorful markings. There's a red spinner and a red band on the front of the cowling, yellow cowling, then there's a red, white, and blue stripe, and then this area here is blue with white stars, and then the entire airframe is painted in like a natural metal aluminum, and the whole tail is orange. So it's highly colorful. I've been racking my brain for the past couple of days trying to figure out the proper order, because red is painted, yellow is painted, the stripes are decals, that's a decal, this has to be painted in metalizer, which is a very finicky paint, and then there's orange. So I got to figure out what gets painted first, what gets painted second, how do I mask, how do I do this, decal solutions, a bit of weathering, try not to lose it. So it's going to be a bit of an effort on this. I'm pretty sure I'm going to try one of the Alclad sealers. It's supposed to seal the paint and protect the paint without diminishing the metal look. So I'll play around with that a little bit, see how it goes. That's my plan for this. Otherwise, it'll simply be built wheels down, cockpit open, showing off all of the detail. So that's the next 4 kits I plan on building. Looking forward to getting into the next 4 kits. It's always exciting when I get ready to start. There's always that anticipation getting to build the next 4 kits. So that's it. I've got the Stuka, the Turkson 2, the P47, possibly an F18. So update on that F18. As I said before, I had gone through and realized a bunch of parts were missing, but after taking a quick inventory of everything now, I'm not quite as bad off as I expected. I have both instrument panels are present. I've got the rear instrument panel, the front instrument panel. Sorry, I'm just kind of going through and looking at things as I'm talking here. E1, B15, which I'm pretty sure I'm holding in my hands. So yeah, I've got, let's see, B, B, A, B, yeah. So I have both the instrument panels. I have 2 resin ejection seats. I have the combing that goes over it. So worst case scenario, I'll make a flat panel for the floor, glue the seats in after the fact. There'll just be no sidewalls. Hopefully he'll be okay with that. And I am missing one of these pieces that go underneath. This particular one is on this side. But they are effectively a flat panel. So in theory, if I cut one out of sheet plastic, I should be able to pop it onto the other side. So if I make one of these and I make 2 cockpit floors out of sheet plastic, I should still be able to build this aircraft. So at this point, unless the owner comes back and says anything differently, I will be building this aircraft. It just will not be 110% the way it should be. And while I have it, I am going to be using this aftermarket set of decals, Canuck decals, and it includes pretty much every conceivable squadron that flew F-18s, and I'll be doing it up in a 410 squadron. It is a twin seat bird, so it will be done up. Yeah, can't get these out, in a 410 squadron. 410 squadron bird. So as well, also being such an old kit, it does not have the Lex strakes that the new birds have, so I also have to make a set of those, scratch build those and stick them on, as the Canadian aircraft did have that, and most of the squadrons have artwork. I don't know if this includes it, but some of the units had artwork on the tail, so I will have to figure that out. But yeah, so it's not quite as bad as I thought. So I suspect that I will build this aircraft. But there we go. And then here it shows you the, yeah, it does come with the little Cougar, 410 Cougar squadron. It does have the Cougar for the Lex, so I will have to make sure that I build that up. And as I said, I will do it up as a twin seat aircraft. Hopefully it gives me enough set of decals in terms of the ejection seat warning markings to actually do a twin seat aircraft, which unfortunately, yes, I have 2 sets, I am good. I will be doing this up as a 410 squadron twin seat as requested by the owner of the kit. So there we go. I will be building it, should be building it, plan for me to build it. And we should see some updates in a few seconds here of where I got on these 4 kids. 4 kits. I looked at my phone, saw my kids. I said kids. 4 kits. Stay tuned. Okay, so here we are. Quick update on where we are with the, well, I want 4 kits in theory. I've only got work started on 3 of them. The Stuka, I have not had a chance to get started on. It's been, what, maybe a week and a half since I finished those other 4 kits. But I had a couple of other things I needed to take care of. I had a I had a Sea Fury that broke about a year ago, I guess, when I was moving the model room around, and I never actually got around to fixing it. I had to rebuild the landing gear and whatnot, so I got that done. And then I started on these 4 kits. So I've only managed to get started on 3 of them. In reality, there's not a lot of work done, but I'll show you what I got done. So first off, the P-47. So P-47 Thunderbolt, I did get the painting started. So you can see the cockpit inside the fuselage and everything for the cockpit. That is supposed to be dark bronze green. Has been painted dark bronze green. So I did recently find, well, I shouldn't say recently, I knew of it a few years ago. I recently printed it out. It's from the IPMS Stockholm website. I definitely recommend it for anybody who does World War II aircraft. It's a cockpit colors primer, if you want to say. I use primer in the educational sense, not the painting sense. Anyways, so World War II cockpits were a hodgepodge of colors. By the end of the war, they had basically standardized a color scheme, but at the beginning of the war, in the 38, 39 range, when some of the aircraft were first produced, pretty much every company did their own thing. So, I mean, zinc chromate yellow was a color, and the Army Air Force had decreed that they did not want cockpits painted in zinc chromate yellow because apparently the color caused pilots, this is just what I've heard anecdotally, the color actually caused pilots to get motion sickness. So they basically put out a standard that the yellow needs to be mixed with black, which created a zinc chromate green, or what was commonly called interior green. But not every company followed those rules. So some companies, Republic being one, Curtiss being one, they used a color that was similar to, well, it's classified as bronze green, which is this darker green color. And then there's even, like for example, the B-17 was a mix of this color and another color. And if you've seen my build of the my Avenger, which is my first few updates of my, I didn't do a build log on it, but my first few what's on my desk updates include the building of that Avenger, and you could probably see on that some of the difference in color. Some sections were one color, some sections were another. So this is a great system. It comes with pictures. I just cut the pictures out and put it into a Word document and printed it out. So it goes through and tells you all these different aircraft types and what they used in the cockpits. So if you ever wonder, a lot of stuff has been generalized as cockpit green or interior green or zinc chromate green, but in reality every manufacturer had a slightly different color variation, and even time wise. Some aircraft started off one way and as the war went on was another way. So you need to take a quick look and figure it out if you want to get accurate. So anyways, long story short, P-47 cockpit painted bronze green. That is the extent of what I have done on this. I need to do some of the detail painting in the cockpit with the black and get all the instrumentation painted up and all that fun stuff and what have you. And yeah, so it takes time. I don't have a lot of free time, hence not a lot of work gets done. So this is, I'm looking forward to building this. I haven't built a P-47. Oh man, I haven't built a P-47 since I was probably in high school, so like 20 years. So yeah, been a while. Anyways, moving right along, my Texan 2, the T6A Texan 2, or Harvard 2 as I'm going to be building it, I've started. It's the same thing. I've got the cockpit painted, the gray. Instructions were pretty vague. It just says like cockpit gray or something like that. So I ended up using, oh, what did I use? Dark gull gray, which is pretty much the standard for US Air Force cockpits. today, which I'm assuming is the same color scheme that these would be painted up in. So not a lot. Basic gray, the cockpit sides, the cockpit tubs with the handles and the instrument panels. Any other details like the ejection seats, as well as the combings and the top of this will all be painted black. I'll mask off and paint all this black later on. But there you go. So the gray has been started on that. Again, my next step is going to be doing some black detail painting. The instrument panels on this, I have to paint a bunch of these details black, and then there's decals that actually go on and to give the instrument panel life. So I got to do that, as well as here the side pieces are all decals. So I'm going to paint the tops of the sticks black, and then the decals will flesh out and give the detail that I'm looking for. Hopefully, if it all turns out well, I will be building this with the cockpit open. I don't want to commit yet till I know how the cockpit turns out. If the cockpit's so-so, I'll close the canopy, try to hide some of the nastiness, but we'll see how things pan out with that. And since I was painting the gray, I also went ahead and painted the cockpit of the F-18. Now, the thing with the F-18, which I didn't realize until I started, is it's missing a whole bunch of the parts for the cockpit. The gentleman who I'm building this for, he was given it to him by somebody years ago who he had stored for a while. So this guy had it for a long time. He never built it. He gave it to the buddy of mine at work. He hadn't built it. It sat around with him for years. He finally, when we talked about models one day, he's like, yeah, can you build it? And I said, yeah, sure. So he gave it to me. I got the model. It clearly looked like, as I'm sure, I don't even know. You know what? I realized as I'm filming this, you already saw all of this detail. So I don't have to go into it. You just saw it on the clip like a couple of minutes before when I introduced these models, and I realized it was missing the parts. And I didn't realize as I'm filming this that I had already filmed that. So forget everything I'm just saying. You already know it was missing a bunch of cockpit parts. I discussed it with him. He said, go ahead, do what you can, build it to the best of your ability. So I just kind of made up some stuff in the cockpit. So this is my solution. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can get a look at it. So that's kind of my solution. It's just sheet, like styrene, which I've built a floor. I use the existing slots on the side that were supposed to hold the cockpit tubs as they would have been. So I just used the existing floor mount, and I put in a sheet for floor, and then I realized the ejection seats were too low, so I just built up these little bases so that once you put everything together and you put the ejection seats in and mount it to those bases, the seats sit at the right height inside the canopy, so it looks normal. Honestly, at 1/72nd scale, with the seats in place, this painted black, the canopy on, the ejection seats in place, the instrument panels, I'm going to just paint black. I'm not going to do any detail with them. You're never really going to notice. You're not going to be able to look in there and be like, oh, there's no canopy, there's no sidewall. No one's going to notice. No one is going to notice. It's 1/72nd. Like, it's not very big, and you know what, at the end of the day, he even just said, don't worry about it. Just do what you can. So anyways, that is the progress. It is not a lot of progress at all, unfortunately. March, you will see some more progress. There'll definitely be some more work done on these in March. So there we go. We've had, you've seen the finishing of the first of those first four. You've seen the intro of the next four. Here's my current update on where things were. So let's finish this video up. We'll go ahead. We'll look at a bunch of the product reviews I've done. There's a bit of them. So I had quite a few things coming in, stuff that showed up in January. I bought a lot of stuff in December, so I had a lot of stuff show up in January, and it missed the January update. So here we go. Let's jump ahead, check out the product reviews, and yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so here we are, the other review for the model, one of the models I bought. I have a few on the way. Not all of them made it for this video, but we'll see what happens. So this is going to be a beast. I don't even know how I'm going to do this on the camera because I don't think it will fit. But this is AMT's XB70 Valkyrie. So I'm just going to shift this camera a little bit and try to get as much of it in, there we go, in view as possible. Because this thing, oh, sorry. Camera shifted there. This thing is an absolute beast. So this particular model was released in 1993. I purchased this off Facebook. They were asking, I hope they don't see this video because my God, did they ever lose out on this. They were selling this online on Facebook Marketplace, I swear to God, for $5 Canadian. $5 Canadian. I found it on Christmas Eve. I messaged them immediately. It would have been posted for almost 2 weeks when I messaged them. How nobody jumped on this for $5, I will never know. But I snagged it. I think with shipping, they shipped it from Port Dover. It's southwestern Ontario, south of London, west of Niagara Falls. Shipped it all the way to my house here in Ottawa. I paid them $25 to ship it, so $30 all in, $30 Canadian. This thing goes for $85 to $100 US if you try to find it. I haven't seen one of these in a hobby shop in decades, easily decades. People who have this kit sit on it. The people who sell it, they sell it for big, big dollars. I got this for $30 Canadian. It's untouched. The box is a little damaged. There's some wear. There's some tape. It looks like he had spray painted or airbrushed or something. And there's splatter on the box. I don't care. The box is being trashed when I'm done. Look at this glorious kit. It's a 1/72 scale. My final plan is to have this mounted beside, hanging beside my B-52. It was sealed. The bags were sealed when I bought this thing. It had not been touched. Like there's this nonsense here on the top of the wing. It's actually where the rubber bands had been holding it together, and the rubber had degraded over the years and left residue. Like the rubber bands turned into dried spaghetti because it had been sitting for so long. This is the limited edition. They made 15,000 of them. It included this poster of the box art with the special commemoration on the bottom talking about the test pilots and the AMT logo. So that'll end up going in with the rest of my posters that I have stashed away. It also includes this authentication. It looks like it was sitting on a rubber band, so it unfortunately has sort of been ruined. But this is the certificate of authenticity, claiming that it's one of 15,000. Really, they popped out hundreds of thousands of these models. Plastic. It's just the box and what comes in it. What comes in it is this. A special gold plated. It's gold colored plastic piece that says it's the XB70 limited edition, one of 15,000. So the kits, they made lots of them. They only made 15,000 boxes with this certificate, the poster, and this little display base. So that's where the money, where the numbers come from, why they say I'm one of 15,000. But whether I use this or not, I don't know. It's probably going to sit somewhere and, collect dust. But the kit itself is massive. I don't think people understand how big this thing is until they actually get their hands on the plastic and do what I did the first time I grabbed it, and that's take some pieces off the sprues, put them together, and for shits and giggles, hold it on the wing. Because, you can't even capture all of this in one shot. And you can see by the size of my hand, this is not a small model. And I have to paint this whole thing white. So that's going to be interesting. But there you go. XB70 for $30 Canadian. If anybody out there builds models, collects models, I highly recommend do what I do. Troll Facebook Marketplace, troll Kijiji, keep your eyes out. You never know what you're going to find. The decal options in this, unfortunately, aren't very limited. Are very limited. There's not a lot. They only ever built 2 of these. One of them crashed. One of them is in the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. So this particular aircraft is 001, which I unfortunately don't have the full number off the top of my head. Anyways, they built 2, 001 and 002, and I believe 002 is the one that crashed, and 001 is currently located in the U.S. Air Force Museum. This particular one gives you the NASA bands for the tail, so you can build it without the NASA bands, but you don't have the proper markings for the tail. You're missing one of the markings that exist on the actual Air Force version of this plane. So you do have that option, I haven't been able to find any aftermarket decals, so put the NASA band on, it's NASA, leave the NASA band off. It's painted up as a US Air Force bird. So anyways, that are the models. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain how amazing it is to get this, but so that's that. So you've seen the status of the models, you've seen the updates of the desk, you've seen the decals, you've seen the model. This is it. This is the February update. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll be back hopefully by the end of February. I'll have another video or two up. I've still got 2 air shows to go over. I've got London and I've got the Wings Over Gatineau fall show, so I've got 2 more air shows to do. I've got some model time lapse to take care of. I got a couple more tips and tricks coming up. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think this would make it in time for this video update, but I'm gonna get this out of the way now, so I can, as usual, put everything away in the closet. So this is the other model I had been waiting to arrive this month. I'm very happy it did arrive. It was one of the ones I've been waiting for a while, and it is the Modelsvit 1/48 scale P51H. This is the first injected molded 1/48 scale P51 around, P51H around, the mainstream kit. There was another one. I'll have to do the research. I can't remember exactly who did it. There was another short run kit that came out, maybe Classic Airframes. One of those guys did do a short run of this. Of course, it was a pain to build, whereas this one is a beautiful, beautiful kit. So it does, I mean, unlike some kits, these aren't vacuum sealed bags. It's just a Ziploc bag, and everything comes in one Ziploc bag. But everything is nicely molded. There's you know, some fine rivet detail where it's required. The wings, for example, have the puttied look they would have on the outside edge with the rivets visible on the inner edge. Overall, it is just a beautiful kit. The fuselage halves are beautifully detailed, lots of little rivet detail. I'll zoom in here for a bit, see if I can get it caught in there. You can see if it'll focus. There you go. You can see it's got some very, very nice rivet detail, panel line detail, very fine detail, accurate for scale. Yeah, it is a beautiful, beautiful kit. You'll actually see here at the cockpit there's the indentations built into the kit for the cockpits. The cockpit itself, the sidewall, again, great detail in this kit. Let's see if I can get the focus. Focus. Anyways, as you can see, there's some great detail on that sidewall there. It doesn't really want to focus here. There we go. Great detail in that sidewall. Same for the other side. You know, the floor. You've got even things like the oxygen hose. You know, the little rudder pedals that are there. Beautiful, beautiful kit. So I'm very happy with it. It includes 110 gallon drop tanks and the 6 of the 5-inch rockets. 2 different sets of flaps, one for the flaps up, one for the flaps down. Even to the point where, like, the inside of the propeller hub, if you wanted to build it with the nose cone off, it gives you the detail for the inside of the propeller hub. Beautifully detailed props, the radiator face. You know, it's just a great, great kit. And for the wheel wells, the wheels are very well detailed. You get the brake calipers on the insides of the main wheels. You've got the spar for the wheel wells, all the inner forms. You would have had all the inner wing structure that you would have inside the wheel wells, all included. The tail wheel is a multi-piece tail wheel. Just a beautiful, beautiful kit. Included also in a separate bag of the decals, and includes masks. So there's masks for the canopy, the wheels, as well as for some of the camo patterns. It actually gives you a clear little piece here for the gun sight, a clear piece to put in the gun sight. 2 separate canopies, closed and open. Love when they do that. as well as a good set of decals. It also includes, there's options for, there's a photo etch sheet as well with some seatbelt details and landing gear details. So you get a plastic instrument and you get instrument face decals, as well as a photo etch instrument panel and the proper decals if you choose to use the photo etch instrument panel. So you can see the markings here. You include this sheet, which has the colors, and this sheet, which is just strictly the black and white decals. Yeah, I'm very excited to build this. I don't know when. I think I'm going to do, I want to do a few more natural metal aircraft before I do build this, just to bring my my comfort level with the Alclad system up a little bit. So I am going to wait before I do that, but very soon I will. Instructions, common with the kits today, beautiful full color sheets, and the instructions themselves. Sorry about that, guys, battery died on me. But as I was saying, instructions are the modern style, full 8x10, full color, nice and glossy. The instructions themselves are basically comprised of the 3D modeling. So when they do everything in the 3D imaging, this is sort of what you're seeing. So everything's well laid out. If I had to make one complaint, and it's a very, very, very minor one, it would simply be that when you look at the way the instructions are done, the numbers calling out the parts, which is say G21, and the letter calling out the paint code, it can be a little difficult sometimes to differentiate what was what. I kind of wish that they would, like the decal is obviously, you know, that's obvious 44, right? I wish they would have found a different way, maybe even put like, you know, the letter inside of a shape of a paintbrush or something, or a paint drop, just to help differentiate between what's a part and what's a paint number. For example, when you get to the, like it's a little harder, I find, in here to figure out what you're trying to do. It gets a little busy, anyways, what I'm saying. So that'd be my only complaint. Otherwise, decal instructions are well laid out, clear, other than the painting issue. But you know, what steps need to be made. You know, they're in order 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. Clearly showing you the different options between decaling versus using the photo etch with the decal and what needs to be used on each one. So it's a very clear, very easy construction. Lots and lots of detail. I'll be interested to see how well the build goes, how the build-up fits, how the plane fits together, the model fits together. I feel like there'll be some finicky bits here and there, but overall it does seem like it'll be a relatively easy build. So I'm very happy, very excited, I guess I should say, to get a chance to do this, to get into this kit at some point. But yeah, and then moving on to the color schemes. There are 4 included in this kit. So first you got a sheet simply for the stencils, and it is a pretty in-depth stencils. You can see this whole side of this decal sheet are stencils, along with a large number in here. You've got prop stencils, you've got colored yellow stencils. So there's quite a few stencils that go into this kit. The drop tanks have some stenciling as well. So definitely has a good selection of stencils in it, which is always good to see. And then moving on to the actual schemes, again, really clearly laid out how things go. Your propeller has its own section showing you the decals that go on the prop. Your full layout for the model and the paint scheme, where the aircraft specific, which I like the way that they do your stencils as a separate one, because this is common markings to all of the airframes, and then this is only showing you the airframe specific decals. You'll see here this little area with the gray shadows, the gray lines. This is the masking templates you use to paint the black areas underneath the tail and the rudder. I don't necessarily know what those are there for, but that's giving you the stencils you need in order to paint those on. As well, So first one we have here, I should go through, Texas Air National Guard, 1953. The next one, which is probably the one I'm going to go with if I do not get the caracal decals, this is the Massachusetts Air National Guard with the yellow. And again, you've got stencils. You can see here there's a stencil mask to do the yellow outline, as same with the tail around here. There's a stencil mask to get that, whereas this is just a simple straight line across the bottom. So need to figure out, it doesn't clearly mark, for example here it's a straight line, but here there's a bump because of the word Mass for Mass Air National Guard, and it looks like you need to plan ahead and mask some of these areas around where the decals need to be placed on the tail and on the nose, as well as that section there in the fuselage for that, because the decals are just black, so you need to plan ahead and mask the areas properly in order to have the yellow in the right place. So there's a bit of effort that needs to go into there, but I think it's a cool scheme with the yellow on the tips and the tail, the nose with the blue spinner. Pretty colorful scheme. Next up we have the New Hampshire Air National Guard in 1953. Pretty plain scheme. It's got the shark mouth if you're into shark teeth. Otherwise it's a pretty plain scheme. So that, and then the last one is the single aircraft that was delivered to the RAF for testing. KN 987. So it was delivered, tested. They never accepted it, but there was an RAF scheme. So if you're into RAF aircraft, you do have that option. I'm going to go with the other one because I want to do the Alclad natural metal. So there we go. This is the Modelsvit P51H. As I said, this one I've been waiting for a while. I actually purchased it December 16th. It took 40 days, 40 days for this to get to my house from Bulgaria. So it did take a little bit, but I did get it. Very happy I got that. One other quick thing I'm going to be, I'll talk about here. If you've been watching my build logs, you would have seen me using, and of course now that I want to show them to you, I don't have the slightest clue where they are. The little tiny brushes that I have been using to do with the weathering, to clean up the weathering. They're little tiny brushes on the yellow stick. Anyways, micro brushes I think is their name. I was on Amazon, as I usually am, looking for stuff, and I found a great deal, and they're 400. So I bought these things. The yellow ones I bought at the hobby shop. I probably bought, I want to say, I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 years ago, and they wanted $2.50 for 10 of them. And for $9 I got 400. So you can see there's a bit of a scale in terms of purchasing power. And each color is a different size, different diameter. So you have all the different options. So there's 100 of each type. You know, these kind of things are invaluable. When you can find a deal like that on Amazon, 400 for $10, you know, you gotta snag it. Like, I am literally going to take years to go through all of this. So a $10 investment that will literally last me years is something that I would in a heartbeat. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Yeah. Found it on the floor. So $2.50 for 10. And as I said, I bought these, I easily want to say 10 years ago. And I got 400 for $10. So, you know, you do the math on that. Yeah, worth the deal. Okay, so here we are, quick review of a product I just got. I actually saw it on another YouTube channel, actually. I believe it was Midwest Hobbies. I'll throw the link up right now on the page here. It was a review of, or a video of him building a 1/200 scale battleship. I believe it was the USS Missouri or possibly the USS Arizona. He has a video of each. I can't remember which video I saw it on, but he talked about these things. And you always have issues with small little bits. For example, these little, you know, pitot tubes for planes. You pick them up with a pair of tweezers and they just go ding, and the piece goes flying across and never to be seen again. So he recommended these, which I promptly went out and purchased, and I am very, very impressed with them. So they're actually a wax pencil. They're actually designed for the nail salon industry to pick up jewels. As you can see, there's all these little jewels everywhere on the pencil, to pick up jewels and put them on nails when they're doing nails. But they work very well in this situation. And there's a pack of, I believe it's 10, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, for $15. So about $1.50 a stick. I mean, these are going to last me forever, so I'm not too worried about spending the money. So it's basically like a pencil. I tried it in a pencil sharpener. He mentioned it can be done. Didn't turn out very well. I just used an X-Acto knife to whittle the tip down to a bit of a point. But it's not super sticky. Like, to my fingers, it doesn't stick at all. But I'm going to zoom in here to something like this little pedo tube. You just tap it, it just goes donk, and it sticks. It doesn't, and it takes no effort at all to drop it. It's just the finest of it's just the slightest bit sticky, just sticky enough to hold it, but not sticky enough to cause any problems. So if you're doing photo etch, in this case I think he was building the guns or whatnot, or building antennas and stuff, and this works so well. You can just grab your part, dab a little bit of super glue on the tip, or put the super glue on the bottom of the wing, and then grab your part and you just hold it up against the super glue, and then, you know, obviously the super glue will very quickly become stronger than the bond with the wax pencil, and then it just pops off. So it works amazingly well. I mean, I haven't tried gluing anything right now, but even to the point of this, I mean, these are 1-inch squares, so this is almost an inch long. Like, you can see it's a very large piece, and again, just the slightest of touches and it sticks. So you can hold the piece, you know, in the angle you need it for it to glue into place. So I'm very excited to actually try this, see how it works. I'll have a bit of a more of an in-review video when I actually try these out, but definitely worth the purchase price from what I can gather, and look them up for them. So wax pencils, it is definitely worth getting. Okay, so here we are. Quick review of some of the decals I received. I got 2 decal sheets that came in recently. One of them is for one of the models I reviewed last month. So if you remember last month, I went over that monogram Kingfisher that I got. So I did get decals for that. As I mentioned in that previous review, the decals, in my opinion, were sketchy at best. They're you know, probably a 1970s release, so we're looking at, that's what, 45-year-old decals. Probably not going to be the best to use. So I scoured. I did spend a little bit of money on these. Not even going to mention how much they did cost me, because they are harder to find. But I went out and I got a set of Aeromaster Kingfisher decals. This is part 2. They did 3 different Kingfisher sets that at least that I know of. Might have been more, but there's 3 in the series, and this is part 2. And I got it specifically because it does give me the British option. I'm still not sure which one I'm going to do. There's 3 aircraft that I am interested in doing. I'm probably going to wait until I get closer to building this, and then most likely get the opinion of my wife, because I do trust her opinion when it comes to some of these decals, what scheme would look best and whatnot. So I will go over with her, figure it out. So the 3 that I am interested in is the first one, which is a pre-war scheme. It's got the silver fuselage, a white band on the cowling, a black tail, the white band on the fuselage, and the tops of the wings are in the chrome yellow, which I think would be a nice colorful bird. Just not too sure which one I'm interested in. So like I said, there's that one. There's the second one here, which is in the standard light blue over light gray, or blue-gray over light gray, that you see in the early war U.S. colors. This particular one I would be interested in doing, as it is the aircraft off of the USS Arizona, the battleship that blew up at Pearl Harbor on December 7th of 41 during the Japanese attack. Would be interesting to do that one, just because it was on the USS Arizona. I have been to Pearl Harbor, and I saw the USS Arizona Memorial and what's left of the ship still in the water. So that would be a cool, it was actually my wife and I's quasi honeymoon. We took it, God, 4 years after we got married, but it was the closest thing to a honeymoon we had in Hawaii. So that would be an interesting one to do, just because we have been to that wreck, and it is an interesting piece of history. The third one, as I mentioned, the British. Always interested in doing British content. It would look interesting with the rest of my British aircraft. Not too sure what I feel like yet, so I have to wait and see. The other two schemes that are included are also more or less in the British American scheme. Number 3 here, it was assigned the Commander of Patrol Wings Atlantic Fleet. So all of the commander of all the patrol air squadrons on the Atlantic side of the US, this was his personal aircraft. So, I mean, it would kind of look cool considering I am currently building the F4F Wildcat in the early scheme, and to have the Kingfisher on wheels painted in almost the identical scheme. There is a little bit of interest in that. Not too sure. I do kind of want to do it on the floats. I don't have a lot of float planes, so having this on float would be interesting. And the final one is a training unit. Assigned to NAS Corpus Christi, Texas in 1942. It is still the blue-gray over light-gray paint scheme, but as it had been in use for a while, by then it has a bit of a faded paint look to the control surfaces, and the wings are still that yellow chrome over silver on the wing, which, it could be interesting. I'd have to wait and see what I decide to do. I don't know. Time will tell. But those are the options that come with it, and then you can see here the actual decals printed quite nicely. Give you all the different options, the different style of American roundels, Canadian roundels. You get the wing walks. For the wings, the rudder stripes if you choose to do that instead of painting, and you also get your wing walk zones. Includes the yellow stripes, the white stripes for the wings of this, plus the black wing walk areas. So you get the different versions depending on what you choose to do. So there are enough decals in reality, because you get 2 sets of wing walk decals, plus extra sets of roundels and British markings. You could technically do the British marking and one of the other aircraft. So you could technically have enough decals to do 2 aircraft if you so chose, but one of them have to be British. So decent set of decals. This is going to be put away in the stash until I get around to building the Kingfisher. So time will tell on when that is going to happen. The other set I bought for a model. I haven't reviewed the model. I've had the model for a while. I might go through it. You'll see it if I ever end up getting to build it. I have the Testors 1/48 scale SR71. Snagged a good deal on that when it came available. So I ended up going out and buying Caracal's SR71 decal options. So this is, I believe, part 2. So it's the later years that they were in service. So it comes with massive amounts of decals. You can actually see here a full sheet of stencils. This is a common sheet for part 1 and part 2. So it includes some decals you're not going to use, such as some of the roundels, which most of the options in this one don't carry the US markings, but they still give you the full sheet of decals. This is the common sheet, as I said, so this one existed in both part 1 and part 2. And then the specific sheet for part 2 has all of the individual aircraft markings, the tail art and the tail bands and all of the individual aircraft numbers. So it gives you the 2 options. There are quite a few different options actually for aircraft types. So as I said, it gives you all of the wing walks, all of your stencils, all of your camera and whatnot markings for the belly. Lots and lots of details there. And then I guess in total you've got 16 different options. So there's some common decals for around the cockpit, which include also canopy outlines and all the rescue markings around the canopy. And then there's, like I said, just 16 different options. So I'm just going to use the last 3 digits of all the codes, whatever. You've got 958 with a snake. You've got 960 with a shark. 962 has a skull and bones. 967 has the, it's from Beale Air Force Base. It has the red band and just a standard tail marking. Nothing special on that. 968 has a special marking. I'm not too sure what it means. It says a DBX with a picture of a plane flying around. I don't know the distinct meaning of this particular markings. 971 again from Beale Air Force Base has a toned down version of the tail. 968 has a, looks like a snake around a number 1. 972 has the Skunk Works logo, the skunk in the red circle, or the white circle I should say. Section 9 is just a, 973 option 9, bare tail. Option 9 also carried roundels. It's the only option in this version that have the toned down roundels. All of the other aircraft are just solid no roundel markings. 974, I'm not too sure again what the meaning. There's a little character holding a number 1. Don't know what that means. Option 11, 979, probably the one I'm going to do. There's a giant white painted hawk on the tail with the name Nighthawk in parentheses. Nice big decal. I think that's the one I'm going to do. Just looks really cool. 980, it has some sort of a special, looks like a dartboard with a SR-71 in the middle. Again, I don't know the meaning of any of these artworks. I kind of wish I did. Maybe I'll follow up video later on with the meaning of some of these when I build the model. We'll see. We're moving on to the NASA ones now. You've got 971 in the early NASA, and then 831, 832, and 844, all in your standard white NASA. There's 831 and 832 both have the early NASA logo, whereas 844 has the later NASA logo. So that's all the different options you have. Option 4, if we go back to option 4, the one with the red band on the tail, there's some specifics for that, some crew names, and some special markings. And then option 8, which is the one with the Skunk Works on it, there's some landing gear door details as well there. So quite a bit of options on that. As I said, what did I say, 16? 16 different aircraft can be modeled from this one decal sheet. It only gives you enough stencils really to do one airframe of that. But if you, for example, use the kit stencils, if they had one, you could technically do 2 aircraft out of the sheet using the sheet and kit supplied decals. I mean, really, if you do it that way, you could do all 16 markings with the individual tail markings. But very excited to get around to this. I have SR-71 and a U2 that I plan to build up and have hanging together. Always makes for an interesting pair. You know, I need more space to display my models, but that's another problem. So those are the decals. I'm going to move on. Hold on for 2 secs, and I'll come back with another review. So here we are, last decal sheet for this review. This was part of the long-term plan I had with the XB70 kit. I have a 1/72 B-52. I built years ago. It was actually my wife's before we were, I think it was even before we were dating, to tell you the truth. She had it, never built it, so I built it for her, finished it up. It's been hanging. It was hanging in her parents' house when she lived there, and then it came with us when we moved out. Actually, it wasn't until we moved to the house, actually. But anyways, long story short, it's been hanging forever. It's finished in a Vietnam era scheme. It's actually starting to, you know, pieces have fallen off. Some of the bombs have fallen off. The gear doors in the wing. Anyways, it's just showing its age. So with the XB70 being in 1/72, I thought it'd be cool to kind of have the XB70 and the B-52 sort of side by side. The planned replacement kind of thing. So I went out and I found myself a sheet that would have what I wanted, basically. Something that would look cool sitting beside the XB70 hanging from the ceiling. And I settled on this. So this is Cutting Edge. Cutting Edge doesn't exist anymore. I forget the gentleman's name who did this, but he had the company for the longest time, and it for whatever reason it folded. And some of their products are very, very highly sought after. Their resin is very sought after. Some of his conversion kits and whatnot can be extremely pricey if you're looking for it online. His decal sheets, some of them are, some of them aren't. He still sells. He still sells his decal sheets online. Again, the life of me, I can't remember the name of the site. I will think of it, and I will post it here. It'll be along the bottom here. I'll have it written. I might even put it down in the comment section if you're interested. He actually is working on another sheet recently of Bu-24s that took part in the Palesti oil raids in World War II. So he still is making decals, just not quite as prolific as he was. And he still sells a lot of his extra sheets he has left over from back in the day. However, this sheet is one. He has quite a few B-52 sheets. This is his third in the series of B-52 sheets. It has 4 different aircraft on it. 5, I guess, if you count the quote-unquote bonus markings. 2 D models, an F model, and then 2 H models. So the model I have is the D model painted in the Vietnam scheme. Upstairs, it's the out-of-the-box monogram markings. So I'm thinking of either doing... I'm probably going to go with this guy here. But just to quickly go over what we have, there's an H model painted up, and I think it's the PSYOP scheme, the green and gray wraparound scheme from the 80s. And then the D model, which was used as a test aircraft, and then a Vietnam-era D model that would have been used in the Vietnam War, and then there's an F model painted up in the silver over black. This was apparently one of the early aircraft to take part in the Vietnam bombing before they painted the camo on it. And then the bonus, quote-unquote bonus aircraft, was the NASA H model. So back to the one that I'm choosing. I'm probably going to do the test aircraft here, 560591. So it was actually used, apparently the aircraft name is Tommy's Tigator. Don't know what the meaning of that is, but anyways. So it was actually used during atomic bomb testing. So the particular airframe was actually used, it has it here, that the notes 8. I believe 8 nuclear bombs it was used in dropping. So the early scheme over here on the side did not have any of the orange markings. It just had the silver at the top with the white belly, which was standard for early B-52s. The white was supposed to stop the flash from the nuclear explosion from doing any damage. And then later on they painted the orange high visibility markings on it. And the quote message. So I mean, they can't confirm whether the nuclear bomb decals that mark the missions were painted on this aircraft, but I will just because it looks cool. The only downside is the black has to be painted. The black lines have to be painted on, so I'm a little leery about getting that done. We'll have to figure that out at some point. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to pull that off, but I'll figure something out. So yeah, apparently it was lost in a crash in the stateside in 1959. So it's a pretty short-lived airframe. Bought in 56, by 59 it was gone. But I think it'd be cool to have it painted up like that. And then the back side shows just for the camo birds, the wraparound camo scheme. And then these just show the markings for the other 2 aircraft. The other thing that's interesting, it looks like according to the side profile there's an orange band on the wing. It's not mentioned in the upper one. I'm going to have to do some research into this one online, but eventually my plan is to take the model I have upstairs, strip it down, gear up, fix any of the issues. Clearly it doesn't have the pylon in the wing, so I'll take that off, clean it all up, and then paint it up in these markings. So that is that. So you can also see the decals themselves. So yeah, it's just interesting. I'm just, when you look at things, you notice stuff that you didn't necessarily notice before. Like, I don't know exactly where these feathered decals go. Anyways, I'll have to figure it out. But anyways, pretty cool sheet. Very interested in getting it on the model. It's going to take time. Don't expect to see this anytime soon. That is the last of the product reviews. So, as always, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for some more videos coming out later this month. Some more, hopefully some build logs, everything else. And again, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, if you are interested in any of the content you see, you can access my website at www.seans-aviation.com. You can see all the latest pictures of aircraft and museums and the build logs of all of my current models and past models on that site. And if you're interested in any of this content, please click the subscribe button here on YouTube to follow more. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time.